But if the only way to keep this going and try to find out what has happened to our friend is to stomp our feet and yell and say, hey, he is still missing.
Friends of a missing Eagle River man want answers and say they're not getting them from police.
I'm Quinn White in downtown Anchorage, where police say they have new details on the truck that crashed into a popular Anchorage eatery.
We need time just to grieve.
Words of comfort from the Archbishop of Juneau, Anchorage, as Alaska reacts to the Pope's death.
And April showers are in the forecast. I'll let you know whether to expect snow or rain showers.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
Well, as those days tick by, the weight gets harder to bear. That's according to friends and family of Tony Kronos, the missing Eagle River man who disappeared early March.
Now, 2 weeks ago, police searched the home of Kronos' neighbor, APD officer Christopher Sternhagen. Police have not said whether Sternhagen is connected to Kronos' disappearance or why his duplex was searched. Last week, Sternhagen filed a protective order against one of Kronos' friends for allegedly stalking him. Tonight, other friends are expressing their frustrations.
It seems wild to me that there's clearly a person of interest, but they haven't named them, said person. They're keeping a big rap on it, so perhaps there's a reason for that.
On Thursday, friends put up a large sign on the back of Kronos' home facing Sternhagen's duplex that asked the question, where's Tony? In the near future, they offered to plan a reward.
And if anyone has information of any kind out there, whether you come forward anonymously with it, that's our #1 priority, is finding him.
And police tell us there are no updates on the case. If you have information, call APD's 311 number or the Anchorage field office of the FBI.
My stomach's in knots to see this, because it could have been so much worse, and I'm just very thankful. If we would have had cut our table sit right there.
Well, downtown Anchorage's Pelmini restaurant is picking up the pieces.
New details tonight from police. A popular dumpling restaurant is rebuilding after a crash from over the weekend.
Quinn White joins us live from Pelmini in downtown Anchorage. Quinn, what are you seeing down there?
When someone dies and there's a lot of hurt, it's usually a real good indicator of how much love is present, because love hurts, you know. It has its joys, but it also has its suffering, too.
Well, the Archbishop of Juneau, Anchorage, speaking about coping with the pain of the Pope's passing. The Vatican says Pope Francis died today of a stroke, followed by heart failure this morning at the age of 88. This comes after a battle with pneumonia.
Now, this is video from yesterday where the Pope was last seen in public. He made a brief appearance on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica to bless the crowd. Later the day, he greeted worshipers riding through the crowd on the Pope-mobile.
Well, a Catholic priest in the Matsu Valley remembers seeing Pope Francis often when he lived in the Vatican studying to be a priest.
Father Madison Hayes says that he met Pope Francis 4 times and was a guiding force in his own journey to priesthood.
I could see the Pope's window where he would come out every Sunday to give a blessing and exhortation to the people. I could see that window from my rooftop at the seminary.
Hayes also recalled one meeting with the Pope in late 2019 or early 2020 when he told the Pope he was from Alaska.
He told me that he had been to Alaska, but and I had known that already, but he only stopped over in an airplane on his way out to Japan. And so I told him that didn't count. In order to really visit Alaska, he had to come up and come fishing with me. So I gave him an open invitation, and so we were laughing about that.
Now, Hayes also said Pope Francis showed his resiliency and his humility in the way that he lived during the last days of his life. He looks back fondly at their meetings.
And people in Anchorage today were also reacting to the Pope's death.
I think it was definitely unexpected, something that I don't think really anybody was waiting, I didn't think we were expecting that to happen. I'm sure he's in a better place. I think that he did a phenomenal job in his position.
Well, I suppose I'm a little bit shocked, but at the same time, I mean, he's a little bit old, so I mean, it's not too surprising, but, he is a well-renowned figure, so it is, it does have impact.
It affects a lot of people, and you can feel that, People are down, people are sad, and then they have hope to what's going to come in the future for the next pope.
And we have extended interviews from the Archbishop and Father Madison on our In-Depth Alaska podcast. Find that on our streaming platforms or wherever you listen to podcasts. It is feeling more like spring every day, more sunlight, warmer temperatures, and still some spring showers.
Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry joins us now. Melissa, what are we talking? Are we talking rain or snow?
All rain at this point. That is true, really, for most of the state. We do have a few snow showers sneaking in Norton Sound into Seward Peninsula, but everyone else pretty much seeing rain at this point. We are seeing dry conditions at the moment here in Anchorage. But look at that dark cloud moving here over Midtown. We do have definitely some showers on the way, especially once we get into overnight tonight and into tomorrow. Temperatures are mild, upper 40s. It's a little breezy, winging us out of the southeast about 38 miles per hour. So that makes it feel about 5 degrees colder than it actually is. And you can see those showers on the Kenai Peninsula, mainly confined to the higher elevations, but those will continue to build in here from the west, where we're seeing very heavy rain in the Bristol Bay region from this area of low pressure that is also bringing a little bit of that light snow and parts of the Kuskokwim Delta, and as you head there across Norton Sound. Now that storm does move east overnight tonight into tomorrow, so some light scattered rain showers in Anchorage and the Valley as we head overnight and through the day Tuesday. But then that low is going to swing around and bring heavier rain to Prince William Sound and to southeast once we get into Wednesday. So do be prepared again for those wetter conditions midweek to the south. Otherwise, in Anchorage, again, we will see just a few light scattered showers overnight into tomorrow. Temperatures starting out in the mid-30s, so not especially cold in the morning, and then we'll warm right back into the upper 40s into the afternoon. We're also holding on to those dry conditions through the interior, and I'll have a look at that full statewide forecast here in a few minutes.
My stomach's in knots to see this because it could have been so much worse, and I'm just very thankful. If we would have had cut our table sit right there.
Downtown Anchorage's Pelmini restaurant picking up the pieces.
We'll go back to one of our top stories here. New details we have tonight from the police after that dumpling restaurant has having to rebuild after a crash over the weekend.
And there's Quinn White. She joins us from Pelmini in downtown Anchorage. A pickup truck crashed into that building early yesterday morning. Quinn, what are we seeing today?
John, Rebecca, check this out. The Pelmini place, it's all boarded up. Just a few days ago, these were all windows where customers would sit there and eat and chit-chat. Now, the car, it hit one of the pillars that supports the building, which is making the entire roof kind of slant down towards the sidewalk. Now, check this out right here. You can see where that big pillar is damaged. There's rebar sticking out. There's insulation. It's not looking too good. Now, APD says this happened about 3:30 this morning, right after their big late night rush.
There was one employee inside the building when it happened. That employee did sustain an eye injury. It was non-life-threatening. They were able to be taken care of by medics on scene.
The owner of Pelmini says they're showing that employee some extra love today as police look into what happened. When officers arrived on scene, they found the truck that had hit the building was empty and the driver had run away. They think the suspect to be between 25 and 30 years old, about 6'3" with an athletic build. Police say the second vehicle involved, a white Ford F-150, drove away from the area. They think the truck has front end damage, but they don't have a description of the driver. Now, the investigation is ongoing, and the owner of Pelmini says that they would open today if it was safe to do so, but unfortunately, they have a long road ahead of them. John, Rebecca.
All right, Quinn, thank you very much. A local advocacy group made up of dozens of South Central dads say that they plan on fighting after Mike Dunleavy, the governor, education bill veto, as House Bill 69 veto supporters say it was necessary to achieve what they consider real, sustainable education funding. Right now, the governor's new bill proposes a $560 per student increase compared to the $1,000 increase that he vetoed. Governor Dunleavy says with other funding for reading proficiency and the homeschool correspondence program, It means like it's more like a $700 BSA increase. Now, members of Alaska Dads for Economic and Student Capacity, or ADESC for short, say proposed cuts like the Gifted Student Program have been so drastic, any alternative bill, in their view, has come too late. But state Americans for Prosperity leaders who opposed HB 69 say that the governor's new bill is a step in the right direction.
So the reforms that I see in this bill really encourage parents to be able to customize their kids' education in a way that they learn best. And then, of course, I love the transparency aspects in the bill. I think that families deserve transparency in our schools and to know what's going on so that they can help home educate in addition to what they're learning in the traditional classroom.
Well, it makes my heart sink to talk about the governor's bill because the HB 69, the bill that the governor vetoed, was a compromise bill to start with. And what he's proposing is just diverting more public funds to private schools and allotments and just diverting more funding from our public schools, where the majority of children, go to school.
Now, if a veto override is not successful, the group says the next step will be looking to support candidates to replace those legislators who voted against the override. The session is scheduled to end on May 21st.
Still ahead, food from different areas of the world tastes differently, but what about sap from across the state?
A UAF program, they're looking into it, and we'll give you a little sneak peek of that program.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
All right, well, SAP has arrived in Fairbanks, and the One Tree program for the University of Alaska Fairbanks, they're working on new research comparing flavors from different locations.
That's very cool. So,
it.
One Tree Alaska received a forest research grant to study how different plots of 150 birch trees produce sap and syrup of different flavors. Now, that new research coincides with ongoing research involving the timing of recurring events such as sap and green up. Now, their sap collection efforts also involve data from people statewide. It's now also got programs in Anchorage.
What it really is about is people becoming good stewards of the land. And the way you become a good steward is to try to emulate what organisms in the ecosystem are doing.
She says most people interested in participating in the program should begin tapping birch trees, or this weekend for folks living in lower elevations, I guess, or the high permafrost areas. Just a little advice.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.